Behavior. I gotta behave. I gotta behave, man. Plenty girls. Plenty girls. I'm acting like this. I gone. I gone. I don't cause no trouble. I gone rid of. Pull up. I gone.
Rest on this talk show do not reflect the management and staff of 102.7 FM, The Riddim.
On many things that we can't control. It makes us lose our bearings, forget the goal. We can't change the weather, the future of people's minds, but yet we focus on them all the time. We must accept the things that we cannot change. Try to stop pointing fingers and assigning the blame. Courage is needed to fix what we can. Use wisdom to know the difference, be a better man. Cause it is what it is. Nothing you can do. Yes, it is what it is. Don't let it bother you. Man, it is what it is. Something you can't control. Yes, it is what it is. Just give it your heart and soul. Sing. Oh yeah. Let's go. Let's rock and stand.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. See Alan Johnson sitting in for the Most Reverend Darren Cooper. What is 5 days away from being back? Tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. Okay. So if you need your conch, he's gonna be back. Okay. You could actually buy conch rather than being conch by the government. So he just say you got conch. I say they treat us like corn. They want grinders every day. Yeah, I'm tired of being grinded. So, I don't know about you, but I am. So maybe I should just go straight to my prayer. Okay? You're going to pray for some self-care. Dear God, remind us to prioritize self-care and nourish our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Grant us the discipline to care for ourselves, enabling us to better serve others. Strengthen us, strengthen our family, strengthen our nation. In your Son, Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Thank you for so much support. I'm going to just touch on this very briefly because we're going to talk about colonialism, and economic emancipation. But let me just touch and say thank you so much for the support. The battle has just begun. We got 21 days to get the message out concerning the choices we have for Bahama, for us between Bahama Rock, better development. But I want to thank all of the Bahama Rock employees, or 300 of them, who made me, wait a minute, I think they only have like 60 employees, but all 300 of y'all that showed up in uniform and everything, I want to thank all of you. You made me feel like a star. I felt like Django. Thank you for all of you Stevens who show up and say, who is that on the mic? Y'all make me feel like a star. You made me feel important. Thank you so much. It just shows me that we in the movement is having an impact. When Bahama Rock have to start calling employees of their what do you call them, people who provide services to them and tell them your employees better be there, show some force. The only thing they didn't bring was a plan, but they allowed us to have more questions. You know, my organization, Preserving Paradise, I've sent in about 400 questions. Now, what Bahama Rock did in their presentation and their answers gave us another 200 or more to send in, including some issues on the land and some additional issues. What amazed me is the fact that you have, what they said they didn't know the land, they don't know who owned the land, they don't know anything of that effect. They said they bought the land, but they didn't remember to buy the land, and a whole bunch of different things. So we have to stay vigilant to understand this is about economic empowerment. I just want you to know, just that 300 acres that they want to carry away is anywhere from 100 million to 200 million tons, depending on where they dig. That in Bahamian prices, where they sell their aragonite for up to $50, the different packages in a ton, that could actually pay the national debt. You do it. Do 200,000 times $50, and I think you get like 10 billion. Okay, so you do the math. Is that you add a zero to that, which will bring it from 200 million to 2 billion. So that no, that's 200 million. Then it brings it 2 billion and times that by 5. That's 10 billion. We could pay the national debt, but instead they're offering us 85 jobs, and they say they will spend. They didn't say they spend. They say an economic impact. Basically, they say we are prepared to pay our light bill, water bill, phone bill, and services, because they use a lot of water, use a lot of electricity, in the millions of dollars. And so they say they're willing to pay those, and they're willing to pay. Like say you need a tire change or something, they're willing to pay for those things. And so they said that's the economic impact, that's the economic contribution. And the beauty about that is that any business come here have to pay their light bill, phone bill, water bill, all those different things. That's not a given. The economic impact is the impact you have on people's lives, not on their homes. You have individuals who have worked their entire lives for their homes that has been destroyed over the last 20 years for blasting. And some stories was given about the former managers and stuff who came and witnessed the blasting from 1.5 miles away, that shook the houses and stood there with their mouth open because they didn't know it had that effect. Now they are less than half a mile away. And the beauty about it is the people who did the studies and stuff, they didn't even know where that focal was right less than half a mile, maybe a quarter mile or so away from the blast site, as well as Buckle. So when somebody online asks a question, what are you guys going to do about the oil storage that is close to the place? Their answer was, if we encounter any oil buried under the ground, we will retrieve it and all this other stuff. This is supposed to be an environmental impact study, and they didn't know. DEP did not know, and once again, DEP proof the environmental protection did not disappoint me. Just like they do at other events, they advocate for whatever it is that they're supposed to be evaluating, and it is. The beauty about it is, out of the individuals in the room, including 100% of the Bahama Rock employees and families and friends and supporters, not a single one of them has read the EIA. But they were 100% in support of it, not realizing that they are paying the $1 billion a year. Do you know we pay $1 billion a year interest only for our national debt? $1 billion a year for our national debt. And that's just the interest only. That's nothing on the principal. So every year just keep going up. And so when you look at that and you say you get 25 million and 85 jobs, what does that do? While these people take out $10 billion worth of resources from us, we get 25 million. So if you divide that by even the 10 years, right? They take out 200 million. No, they take out 10 billion. No, let's divide it by 20 years. They take out $1 billion a year in profits, and we get 25 million. Not even 10%. I don't even think that's 1%. Okay? So we get 25 million, and we got to work for it, they say. That's where we have to think. What could we do that is a better use of this to develop our country, develop ourselves and our personal economies? And that's the conversation we're going to have, because I'm working towards coming to you on my own on a separate show, and we're going to work on that conversation to change that. But today, again, thank you, Bahama Rock, for making me a star. All you Stevens, you all did good. If I get this studio going with the Riddim, all y'all got a space in our studio. You all don't even have to cast. Just show up in your uniform. We going to know who you are. Which brings me to the point of colonialism, coloniality, and economic emancipation. And they inspired, Bahama Rock inspired this talk. Colonialism was where essentially we could make the argument, or what is said is that when we were rule governed, and the whole purpose of colonialism was the extraction of resources and wealth from other jurisdiction for the empire. And we saw that. We call it slavery. We call it all these different things where we were dominated by various different people in the thing. This is why we have the French Caribbean and the Spanish Caribbean and the and the English-speaking Caribbean, because these were the colonial nations that came in and dominated this area. And though they have left and we declare ourselves to be independent, the infrastructure, the mindset, as well as the systems they have left behind is still in existence. It's called coloniality, where you have adopted the means, the ways, and behavior, as well as the response and the expectation that you will be dominated, owned, and colonialized. So in essence, what colonialism has done is it's colonized the mind, and even for those that have not experienced colonialism, as we talk, born post-1973 or post-majority rule, still have embraced the system of the cave. Now, what do I mean by the system of the cave? I want you to imagine an entire country born and bred in a cave, never seen the outside, chained to the ground, only can face forward with a fire in the back of them. So as reality passed by them, they get to see the shadows on the wall, and they hear different names of what the people in the conversation is. They haven't seen the people, but they can see the shadows on the wall, and they say dog and trees and all these different things. And they grew up their entire life of seeing the shadows on the wall, different shades of gray. And what happens is a number of the younger individuals in the cave managed to free the shackles, and out of curiosity, they went outside of the cave. In a moment of the sunlight they experienced, it hurt their eyes, caused headaches, caused everything. But as their eyes adjusted to the sunlight, they listen and they hear people identifying the very things they heard about in the cave. When they said dog and they looked, they saw a little animal with fur. When they said birds, they saw feathers and the multiple colors. When they saw when the people said trees, they saw leaves of multiple different colors. And they were amazed. And they spent decades, a decade or two, studying and understanding how these things that was once foreign to them work. How computers work, how technology work, how systems work, and everything outside of the cave that bring this beautiful place to life. And so some of them said, we are going to go back to the cave and enlighten the people in the cave as to what is outside the cave, that the sunlight is not dangerous, and it is actually an enlightening thing that we could make the Bahamas a better place. When they returned to the cave, guess what happened? They were laughed at, they were ridiculed, and the leaders in the cave said, you see why we tell you to sit still and stay put? You see how the sun have driven them mad. They talking about colors and these other different things, feathers and things. Madness. The sun have driven them mad. That story could apply to the Bahamas today. And so the question then is, what would we do to break that story? Today, leaving the cave doesn't require you to physically leave the cave, because technology has penetrated the darkness and the shadows of the cave. And so now you can look at devices in your hand and have access to almost unlimited information. Even the billions we have spent on education cannot match the access that you have in your hand today. When you add AI and other sources to that, it is only amplified. Remaining in the cave in the sense of darkness and different shades of gray is now a choice of individuals and of leadership. There is no economic development. And so when you talk about colonialism, that's us in the cave. But when you talk about coloniality, is where we fight to remain in the cave, because it is systems we feel comfortable with. Because the other things can be scary or even detrimental. And so what we have to do is we have to fight now to break ourselves of the habit. This is no different than being addicted to alcohol or some other drug, some medication, or whatever it is. This is an addiction. And that's what coloniality is, just because you say, if it ain't work, there's no need to fix it, but it doesn't work for you. How does the slave use the system that's designed for enslavement and extraction for his own development? The system was designed to oppress him. The system was designed to extract the wealth from around him, and yet the slave and the slave children still refuse to dismantle a system that allows the extraction of the wealth and resources and the profits and money from around them. This is why when we say the tourism dollars, 90% or 80%, whatever amount, leaves the country almost on the day it hits the country, because we have not learned how to break our system. This is why there are $3.5 billion in the bank and Bahamians cannot access it. This is why there's $4 billion of homes and equity sitting in the bushes, and we can't go to rehab and refurbish it in spite of the lack of housing and everything else. This is why, for those who have managed to fight and work themselves up and have a mortgage with some equity in their house, or have their house debt-free to the tune of $60 billion, cannot utilize that equity to build generational wealth. But we don't talk about the system that we have. And I repeat often, you cannot manage what you cannot measure, and you cannot measure what you refuse to acknowledge. We have, for 70 years, no, let's put it closer to 60 years, because our original forefathers did fight and got us the keys to the cage or to the cave, though we have not used it to leave it. So we've gotten the keys. And this is why we've been fighting to maintain the systems of oppression. Caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. C. Allen Johnson.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering why doesn't Bahama Rock hire you to be an advisor? Because apparently no one in that company knows what's going on when it comes to informing the Bahamian people.
Well, I tried to inform it, but everybody in the company told me to shut up. I'm scared of people.
No, that don't work like that. I was there last night, and I was very disappointed to know that 90% of the Bahamian people, the company is employed by 90% of the Bahamians, and the Bahamians are actually taking their fist and pushing it down into the Bahamian people's mouth.
See, the thing about it is, right? You remember what he said? He said, we are 100% Bahamian owned. Now, I want you to think about that. That means the entire destruction of our environment, or even the extraction of the aragonite, is being done by Bahamians. But what I just said about the cave, they would never phantom in their mind that they could do the exact same thing for themselves and keep the $10 billion. They would say, give me a salary. Now think about that. They can do everything there, and because of the value of what they're extracting, getting the capital to buy brand new machines, not the old machines they have, brand new machines, they could do it for themselves. But never once anyone in that room consider, why don't we own this ourselves rather than having jobs just over broke suckers and doing it to send to somebody else abroad? They never. And you try to explain that to them. That's why I was kind of thankful to the Royal Police Force, because they remember from 17 years ago. So almost immediately when I reached in the building, I almost had police escort. Thank them so much, because they understand the mindset of what corporate indoctrination of slavery has done to us. And I guess, but let me say this. I think the reason why they were able to recognize and made sure that I was safe, what do? Don't they keep prisoners? So they know what prisoners do. So they say, you know what, Mr. Johnson, we're going to be watching out for you, because the prisoners most likely will try to hurt you. Just like you go visit the prison, the guards walk with you to make sure to keep you straight from the prisoners, because they'll attack you for no reason. Well, that's exactly what was the sense that I experienced. But ask yourself a question, people.
That wouldn't happen. And see, what really alarmed me, was they had all of their workers who were off came in that room with their
They
uniform
don't have that much
on.
workers. Listen to me. They do not have 200 workers.
I mean, me and you know that.
No,
Right?
but that's what I'm saying. Let me tell you what they did. Bahama Rock started calling all of their vendors and threatening their vendors that if their workers don't show up to support them, they most likely will lose their contract. And I want Bahama Rock to deny this. They what you say is forceful support. Well, if you and your employees are not there, we won't be around to give you any contract.
But I'm sitting back and I'm saying, when you start talking about managerial position, I might be a dumb nigga, but I ain't stupid, right? When you start talking about managerial position, at least most of the questions that are asked to the floor, someone in the managerial position should be able to ask them. And then when I sit back and I look at you, you actually answering the questions for them, right? When you have a 650-page document, no one inside the company knows if it's 600 or 400 or 300.
Nope.
Right? And then you have the government there defending these people, right? When the government's supposed to be the people, and they supposed to have someone there representing the people, and I really, really take alarm to that, to see that in the next, let's say in the next probably 30, 40 years, I just think about everybody in the 8 Mile Rock area, either will be dead or they'll be displaced out of that area.
No, but thank you. What I'm saying, caller, thank you so much for calling, right? But let me just say this, right? The problem is they don't understand that the area that they're beginning with is 300 acres. If 8 Mile Rock is 1,200 acres, one area they're taking is equal to 25% the size of 8 Mile Rock. But when they go to the back of 8 Mile, remember now, that's only 300 of the 515, for which the people who was there for Bahama Rock did not know the size of the place, did not know the size of the area they're going to mine. They didn't know how deep they were going to mine. And I'm trying to tell them. Now, I wasn't trying to get them the answer. I was trying to remind them of the lies they put in the document. Because if you're saying this one thing in the document, on the stage you're saying something else, it shows that you don't understand the very thing that you're in there to represent. And that's why Depp was pushing the thing. Questions was asked of them, and they were fumbling, trying to think about, they're looking at each other, you know that, and I'm screaming out across the room, oh, shut up, C. Allen. I'm saying, I'm telling you what the documents say. Because I've read the 600 plus page document 5 times or more, and I know the document intimately. That's why me and my group was able to compose 600 questions, for which we sent 400, and now we're going to refine the other 200 and maybe additional 200, because their answers gives us a lot to be desired, because it showed the highest level of intellectual incompetence concerning the document they represent to us. But I want to accept their argument. And this comes back to the coloniality I'm speaking about. If there is no foreigner on the campus of Bahama Rock, and I take the manager that they are 100% Bahamian, I wonder if they could ever, I wonder if someone at Bahama Rock is hearing me, that you whisper this to others. I want the support personnel that is paid the bare minimum to maintain the equipment at Bahama Rock or provide services would consider this. What if you owned it? If you are the support company that helps support Bahama Rock, and 100% of the workers are running the machinery, running the operations, handling the shipping out, handling everything, I wonder what would happen if you did it for yourself and keep the $10 billion over 20 years. Just think about that. Not a salary, ownership. Now, what if we take the mindset that they sold you on the concept, and this is what coloniality does. It tells you that you lack the ability and competence to do the very thing that you're doing. Think about that. And that's what the system said. The system told you that you were incapable of doing what you're doing. Just think about the contradiction there. And so what coloniality does, it causes you to be in such a shade that you don't see yourself. Grand Bahama needs development. Bahama Rock needs those hundreds of millions of tons to sell in the U.S., not to us. But in Grand Bahama, we have canals that need to be dredged. We have so much things that has to be done to make this the Riviera of the Caribbean as described 50-something years ago. So there will never be any lack of aragonite for the use of Bahamians, except there'll be the lack of the volume of aragonite for you to export at that level. But if you're building the Bahamas, before you extract and export, you need 1 billion tons to save the Bahamas from global warming, shoreline erosion, and everything. How much of the 200 billion or 100 billion tons of aragonite you saving to save yourself? None. But what you're doing is you're creating an environment behind you, 773 acres behind you, the old cement company limited site, and the Bahama cement site, another 515, which equals the size of 8 Mile Rock or larger, to be taken away from you, not by global warming that takes an inch or two a day. Imagine this. If global warming, we're going to have the tidal rise at a half an inch, certain centimeters, but we're going to make a 120-foot hole. Compare that to 1 inch. And tell me what you have. What type of stupid, stuck on stupid, SOS we have to be? That we are screaming for global warming going to take the Bahamas away. We're going to be under an inch of water, 2 feet of water, even 3 feet of water. But we're digging 120 feet holes ourselves and sending it away. The same aragonite you need to raise your houses, to raise your streets, to raise your schools, to raise your hospitals, to make properties in Freeport and other places usable, places in Deadman Reef and development A, B, C, D, and E, and all these different things. You need the very thing that you're giving away for jobs to rise those levels so you could have the homes. Here we are facing a crisis of affordable housing because we can't build in volume or capacity, and we have the materials available for us to make the concrete needed to build your house. It is yours. Yet you have people that need it paying up to $50 a ton for their things. And that price goes into your bricks, it goes into your cement, it goes into your concrete. There's nothing being built without it. But you have to buy it from the people you give it to. What type of madness? That's like having someone set up a mango stand in the front of your house, and they get the mango from your trees that you pick, and they tell you that they'll give it to you at a discount when you come out the gate to buy it. That's a madness. And that's what coloniality does. It causes you to doubt even the very thing that you're doing. We must build better Bahamas. The Bahamas is not a gift from your parents or grandparents. It is a loan for future Bahamians, a loan left to you to have custodial responsibility for future Bahamians. Now think about this. When you go get a $100,000 loan just like your house, you must return the value of the loan plus interest, meaning that it has to have greater value. Then why being given the Bahamas as a responsibility for future Bahamians, we are letting it be taken away from us? Not forcefully, with our assistance and actually demand of the few of us. SOS. Stuck on stupid. When you say you can't afford a home, when you say you can't afford these various different things, when you live in a country that says that out of the 250,000 workers, every single one of them makes about 75,000 to 80,000 a year. if every worker, not every Bahamian, if every worker, I want those of you that work, this is not my numbers, in the Department of Statistics, take the 16 billion, and I want you to divide it by the 200,000 people working, and tell me, what do you get? The 16 billion. So if you have the 16 billion, I'm pulling it up on my calculator. So, I'm getting a little older, so my thing, divided by 200, 1, 2, 3. According to the figures, not counting the informal economy that is not documented, the documented economy, the GDP says, based on the per capita of working people, every working person in the Bahamas takes home $80,000 a year. So if you're making $15,000, right? Somebody has your $65,000 because it isn't taken out. It says that if you take all the money that came in and divide it equally among all the workers, this is what you make. So whatever you're lacking, somebody has. Look around your house, your cousin, your friends, everything, and ask them, are you making your $80,000 a year? And if they ain't, somebody has it. Because they don't say potential. This is counted and verified that you ain't got it. Somebody else do. And that's where the problem we have. And so when you begin to understand the numbers, you should then begin to question the reality you live and the reality you should. And so when we start talking about the opportunities we have for home ownership, the opportunities we have for owning the various different industries that they say is possible, and the low-hanging fruit, which is all interconnected. Now, notice this, they said, the number one economy now is construction, followed by tourism, followed by financial services. The very three things that is available to us, not with permission of foreigners, available to us. This is our yard. This is our things. Okay? The $3.5 billion in the bank, that ain't foreign people money, That's our money. That's your savings, your little deposits here, there, and all those other things. The $4 billion in the bush, they ain't people things. They are things in the bush. The $60 billion sitting in latency inside of your house, if you have a $300,000 house and you owe only $100,000, you have $200,000 sitting in equity in your house. And they have convinced you that if you want to access that equity, you must go get a loan from the bank. That's not how fintech works today. Today, right now, a law exists in the Bahamas today that allows you to leverage your $200,000 equity in your house and take home $12,000 a year, 6% interest, $1,000. So I want you to think about that. The law exists today. See, the question then becomes, who do they pass these laws for? Remember I said today, coloniality allows you to bring systems and new systems, and somebody from the outside tell you need to do this so they could use it, but you don't understand what it is you created? That's what coloniality does. So here is the system that allows people. I just want you to think of your mothers and your grandparents struggling, standing in social services line, waiting for assistance, sitting on $200,000 that could generate $12,000 a year for them, but they're waiting for the $80 from social services, or the $40 or the $50. But the law exists today, not coming, today. Even security to make sure that it's not abused was passed the week before the law was passed. Today. But it wasn't passed for you, I guess, because if it was for you, you would know it. When I get up to sell people, this is what is available to you. Shut up! You think you know too much. You think you know everything. The white man who ain't even here anymore knows more than you. That's why we're doing what he say. What do you mean we could use our own mangoes to make juice and nectar and all those things? What do you mean we could make from tomatoes, make ketchup and tomato paste and pizza sauce and everything? Shut up, man. See, Alan, you think you know everything. I don't need to know anything. I can just Google it and read it to you. But you will argue against me about what Google say. The same Google you go to when you think you want to know something. And all I'm doing is reading it to you. I ain't nothing new. And when I say reading to you, I don't have to go to Google because when I read it, I remember it. I can repeat it what it says to me. But you tell me I think I know too much. I don't know anything. The one thing I am aware of is I know the level of my ignorance. I know what I don't know, I don't know. That's one of the great things. I'm also, I'm an autodidactic polymath. Look it up. Autodidactic polymath. Self-learning in search of mastery of multiple things. Searching for apex knowledge, the ultimate knowledge. That's what I am. A polydidactic. I think I said it. Polydidactic. Polymath. Polymath. Searching for apex intelligence. And what it means, an autodidactic is self-taught. There's nothing in the world that I can't learn because I have opened my mind. I was taught early, and I teach this to my children today. Education is not meant to fill an empty mind. Education purpose is to create an open mind to allow things to flow through that you can utilize to know where to find what you need when you need it. How is it that I can read a 600 and something page document 5 times and know more about what's in the document than the man who wrote it? Because he can't remember what he wrote. I could, because I've read it. And so what I'm saying, this is not some unique talent to me. And they say, when you're telling the truth, how telling the truth could be bragging? If I say I'm 6'4", am I bragging or stating a fact? If I say my IQ is 160, maybe higher, is that bragging or stating a fact? If I say I'm a male, is that bragging or stating a fact? It isn't. That's the point. If I say I have this many children, is that bragging or stating a fact? Then why do you attack me for stating what is true? Ask yourself that, because it don't bother me. But what happens is when I say we are in the cave, why do you attack me for laying bare the reality of where we are if we could basically take an analysis of where we are to want to go to the outside? I'm saying to you, I've been outside. And no matter what your leaders say, the sun doesn't destroy you. The sun actually purifies, cleanses, reveals what the dark hides. They want you to remain in the dark. They want you to come outside and remain in the darkness of your mind. And until we begin to recognize coloniality, caller, you on the air.
Yes, taking calls reference to Alan Johnson.
Yes, this is you talking to him. You're live on the air.
Yes. Well, sir, you know me, and I know you're a very intelligent guy, and you have been bringing this stuff to the forefront for a long time. I think everyone would recognize that. But I wanted to put out a couple of things that people should consider on this. Now, in relation to the Bahamas wreck, they might have violated some contract things and all that, and that may be true, but at the same time, they're extracting that stuff. If they wanted to extract it, it's not for free, so I'm sure they have a cost for all their machines and all that, so they have to sell it to somewhere to recover their costs. And if they wanted to sell it to somewhere on the island, if someone here wanted to buy it, I'm sure they would entertain that. But we don't have anyone stepping up to buy it locally.
No, stop. Can you pause a second? Let me correct you as we go along. So I don't go through a lot of things. First, on the machinery, they've been here for 38 years. There's no major new machinery. Recovery of their machinery was recovered. There's no way Bahama Rock could tell me they even spent $1 billion for their machinery. And over 38 years, they've taken out multiple billions of stuff out of our country. So there's this concept of they have to recover their investment. We are long past that. On the concept of people in the country buying it, Bahama Rock supplied the things that was needed for, I think, Atlantis. It provided it to some other islands like on Abaco. It provided it for individuals, for the companies here on Freeport. Nobody's denying that people are buying it. The question is, for Bahamians, is why do you need somebody else to basically extrapolate the wealth from your labor, because the concept is, it says that 100% of them is doing. I'll bet you that if Bahama Rock leaves tomorrow, before they could get on the plane, I wouldn't even take their equipment. I could get $1 billion line of credit to buy brand new 21st century equipment before they could turn their machines off. Go ahead.
Okay, I had a comment on the GDP divided by the workers. GDP includes all of the income for the country, including business owner profits, and I think everyone would agree that if you own a business, you're entitled to make a profit from your business, like the
I understand that
mechanic shop or whatever. So it's not just that that's the amount of money that the workers are making. That's all, including business owner profits.
No, right.
So
GDP, but here's the thing. You can't, on one side of the argument, go to the statistics and say the GDP of the Bahamas for a population is $400,000 is $40,000 each. And when I say let's use that, they said per person, PPP. See, I know what the GDP is, and I know also that the GDP is a facade. And the very argument I'm making proves the GDP is a facade. GDP is profits and salaries paid, profits made by businesses and salaries paid to workers. But see, in the argument made by our leaders and world organizations, they are selling us the lie. But when I stand in front of people and say, let me tell you how this works. So when I speak about the GDP, I want to use the same argument they're using, because they have rejected me waking them up to say the GDP has always been a disproportionate statement of the actual wealth distribution in the country. But I ask you, go to Google right now, go to CAI.gov, go to the Moody's and the rest of those places and see if they don't state what I just told you. I'm just simply saying, instead of using the 400,000 people, we say we have 250,000, 225,000 workers or 250,000 workers. And let's assume that 200,000 of them is in the workforce, right? Because we have a 9% unemployment. So let's assume 200,000 of them is the workforce. So if you use the numbers that they're using, then it comes to $80,000.
Right, but it also, GDP also includes, for example, if someone has a 8-plex apartment on rent, all the rents they're making, they report that.
No, not all the rents they're making, the profit.
Well, each person reports what they made in the surveys.
No, sir. Trust me, I know the argument they use for GDP, and I know the argument they use for GNI. I know the arguments that other analysts use to find out the true wealth distribution to individuals. I am saying to you, you go and talk to any even economist today and ask them for the GDP, and you hear it every day. Listen to Parliament. Listen to the news tonight and other places. So I can't use another argument. The argument I use is that the average Bahamian makes less than $28,000, maybe $25,000 a year. Not the $40,000, not the $80,000 in the true throughput of what is made when you talk about salaries only. And that lies in the numbers in national insurance and other places, and also can be extrapolated from the various different central bank reports based on the loans and other different information and multiple things. I know how to do this. I do data analytics, predictive analytic, and everything else for a living. But I'm using the very argument, the argument you're now bringing, the GDP. You're saying the GDP don't mean what it says, but we must use the GDP to make the determination of what they say. Make it make sense to me.
Well, okay, I'm just saying, like, say you have an Airbnb on rent, that's included in the GDP.
The profits
but it's not from working. So it's not as if the salaries is all that's included in the GDP. That's all I'm saying.
You're repeating the same thing. I said to you, GDP is not income. It is profits made and salaries paid. See, do you know I can have a company that takes in $1 billion and still only make 10,000 profit?
Hey, all I'm saying is it's more than just the workers' salaries.
No, as I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
may I recommend to you that I'm saying to you, I'm not going to waste, not waste, but I just don't want to spend too much time making an argument with you. I'm simply saying to you, I'm using the scale that they brought to the table. And
okay, fair enough. Let's move on. One last thing then, sir. You had mentioned that we need more Bahamian banks. And I think everyone would agree.
No,
that,
I didn't say we need Bahamian banks. I talk about the state of our banks. We need
Oh.
more. I do believe that we need more Bahamian financial institution. I speak about the failure of the banking institution.
Oh,
we have
right,
here.
but would you say that we need more Bahamian-owned banks? Is that part of what you're saying? Would you agree?
I think we need more Bahamian access to banking. I don't need to own a dental office to have my dental services provided to me.
Well, we only have so many Bahamian banks. I think
That's what
Commonwealth
I'm saying
Bank
to
and a couple of...
Yeah, the Commonwealth Bank, Fidelity, and I could name them all for you. But the problem I'm saying to you is that we don't even need to use them. If they don't fit for our purpose, we have access to global capital. And I'm saying to you, we are busy looking at the gate and the gatekeepers, and we're ignoring the fact that the fence, the wall, has fallen. But we are still focused on getting to a gate that is chained and locked, when we could walk to the space the wall used to be. And so what I'm simply saying is we as Bahamian, we need to understand, and this is why I'm going to extend myself for a couple of weeks or a month or so, because I am now moving from the point of having spent the last 7 years building my ark. You know how they say, put on your life vest and these things before you help others? Well, I spent 7 years building that, and I had to build that in spite of the laws in the Bahamas that was passed for others that I couldn't access. So you know what I did? I walked through the wall, built my ark, brought the tools that is necessary to build my ark in the Bahamas, because this is where I want to be. And now my job is to tell others about the ark I have built and the access that I experience of having access by going through the wall, so they too, if they desire, because I'm not dragging nobody through anywhere to do anything, if you desire the information, when you take it from me and you begin to understand it, you then say, I now have knowledge. And knowledge itself is not wisdom. Wisdom is the proper application of knowledge. And for those who are willing to listen to me or seek my counsel, notice I didn't say I will go and force my counsel to them. Those who are willing to seek my counsel will be given it, so they too can build their own personal economy or their own arcs. And that's my responsibility for what God has provided to me over the last 7 years. What I'm saying...
Sorry, could I say one more thing then before we come up here?
Go ahead.
You had mentioned that there is a law already on the books that someone... So you gave an example. They have $200,000 of equity in their $300 house. They can go get 6% on their $200,000 of equity. Now, that could very well be true. But the point I'm trying to make is that whether there's a law that exists for that or not, that's a big difference between an actual place where you can drive down there, go into the person, sign a thing, and get a 6%. Now, if that's the case, I would love it if you put on the air the phone number to call and the place to drive and do that, because I think a lot of people would want that.
No, I'm saying to you, it is part of the system that I built.
Well, you should tell us all the phone number then, because you're going to get a deluge of customers if that's the case.
No, but see, I'm saying to you, this is Darren's show, and I didn't pay to advertise my business, even though I eventually will. But I'm simply saying to you, if you want to have a conversation of how that's possible, you can call me, 825-9700, 825-9700, or try me on my business line, 822-3100. And I'm saying to you is that it's there. And
all right, I hope you advertise that, because you're going to get a lot of business.
No, I do. And that's why I'm simply saying I'm just moving to the point that I'm finalizing that. And that's why even as I talk, and it's not in jest, people, when I talk to individuals concerning the studio that might be coming, because I'm going to need the space. And so what happens is the space also allows individuals to tap into it, because understand this, tapping into it doesn't just mean that you can take it. You have to attach it to something to make the 6%, right? So let's use an example. Somebody wants to buy a house. You come to me, you have $300,000 worth of equity. They want to buy a $200,000 house. I would allow you to extract that $200,000 from your house, lend it to that person so they could buy their house with no risk to your home. The worst thing that could happen is you end up with two houses, and they get to get their houses. Of course, I get to make my little gravy, my little fee for facilitating it. And that's what I do. But the law exists for anybody else to do it if they understand the law. But I won't tell you the process, but I will execute it for you for the right price.
But you're not operational yet, are you?
No,
You're
I'm not. But I'm very close. I'm waiting for Uncle Trump. When Daddy and Mommy in the Bahamas won't let me do it, Uncle Trump is making a way for me. And the Clarity Act that's about to pass is one of the final pieces of legislation. And I know it's going to pass because Trump benefits from it. So if Trump benefits, it's going to pass.
Then C. Alan Johnson can also benefit. God bless, sir.
Yes, yes. God
Have a good day.
My Uncle Trump.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye. And so, as I was saying, the coloniality, and so I just want people to understand this, right? Let me go to something what most behemoths have, something called intellectual property, intellectual capital. And intellectual capital, and I don't know this to be so, but let me use an example of the recent election. During the election, Rick Fox declared 469, 59, 39, I don't know exactly, $1 million worth of his net worth. If I had run in the last general election as broke as people may think I am, I would have declared $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. This is 400,000. Being broke is not the same as being poor. Okay? And maybe I'll get back to that. But understand that there's something called intellectual property value, intellectual capital, intellectual property value. Let's use an example. Take the recipe for Kentucky. What's the value of that? 100 billion, 200 billion? The recipe itself is the intellectual property, intellectual capital. Can you spend the recipe? Can you buy a house with the recipe? Can you pay your light bill with the recipe? No, you can't. It's the value of the intellectual capital and the value that they can generate with the utilization of it. And so you can take literally a Burger King place. You go to a place and open. You had some places right here in Freeport, right? Let's use an example. You go there to buy a hamburger right now. They get a hamburger for $4, $5. You don't even want to pay that. You pass by the same building tomorrow and a Burger King sign on it. You'll pay $9 for the same burger. Why is that? Branding. That's the intellectual property. That's the intellectual capital that actually owns. So what we have to understand. So let's use an example. Elon Musk. That's the best way to understand it. Elon Musk raised less than $100 billion, yet his net worth went into $1 trillion. Think about this. He only raised, I think, 89, so let's say 90 billion. I will round it up to $100 billion. Yet his net worth went into the trillions. And it's very easy to understand. He was issuing a few million shares of stock. Let me say, for instance, me. I'm issuing shares of stock, $1,000 each. And I find 10,000. I have 1 million shares of stock, and I have 100,000 people willing to pay me the $1,000. I have $100 million worth of stock, just pieces of paper, 100 million pieces of paper, and I say they're worth $1,000. And so, guess what? I go to market explaining what it is that why I think that these piece of paper is worth this, and this is the intellectual property, and people believe in the intellectual property I explain, and that it could generate the capital once it is the profit once it's applied. So I decide to say I want 1,000 for each of these paper. Guess what I end up with? 10 billion in value in net worth. I only have to sell. I don't have to sell all of them, you know. I only need to sell a million of those, and I sell that million shares for $1,000 each. Right, which raises me $1 billion. So, but they look at the value of the unissued shares and say, I'm now worth $1.2 billion. Even though I've only raised, I raised $1 billion, they say I'm worth, let me start again. I sell the shares, I raise $1 billion. They look at the value of the other 99 million shares that I didn't issue, and they time those by $1,000 each. And then they say to you that I'm worth $1 trillion. I ain't got the $1 trillion in cash, but let me tell you the value of those shares. I can now go to a bank and say, I want to put up 5,000 shares and I want to borrow $5 million, and the shares act as collateral. That's the value of intellectual property, intellectual capital. And most of us have it. The problem we have is the inability to define what it is that we have. And these are the things that I'm going to make myself available to businesses. So the wealth is here in the Bahamas. And so when we talk about the $60 billion of latent capital that resides in the Bahamas, that is all of the homes and properties and other different things with this ability right here in the Bahamas, and a law that allows you to extract that value out of those homes and utilize it for whatever it is. And that has been on the books. Do you know the DARE Act has been on the books since 2020? And the DARE Act is the very thing in similarities to the laws that is being passed in the United States to allow them to become the global standard for crypto. Crypto is not cryptocurrency, okay? But it comes to global standard for crypto and tokenization and stable coins and all of these things is being passed in the U.S. It's the very same law that exists in the Bahamas that Donald Trump declared that he made $1 or $2 billion with, and his sons and kids probably made $40-50 billion in less than 1 year. It's existed in the Bahamas since 2020. We call it the DARE Act, upgraded in 2024. Laws have always been passed in the Bahamas by us, but the question is, why have they never been passed for us? And so when we begin to examine what is available to us, and this is the same thing why we have Bahama Rock, that we will get rid of a place that we could make into a zone. You know, we talk about the Enterprise City and Cayman Islands and all of these different things. They are smaller, globally known. They are less than the 300 acres that we have right here, access to the waterfront, access to the deep harbor, access to an economy that supports hospitality, tourism, and travel, access to a nation with the digital capability, all of these different things. And instead of actually exploiting the 300 acres to create $1 billion or more a year in one location in salaries, and then take the other 800 acres and put in solar farms that will generate 300 times the power we need. So in essence, the only reason you'll be paying 10 or 15 cents for electricity per kilowatt hour is because you have to pay for the solar panels and the batteries and stuff. Other than that, we can almost say it's free. But why? We say, no, we much rather give it to somebody else to take away from us, and we will get a salary that we could pay towards electricity, towards a car, towards the houses being destroyed. Ownership. And that's why the Preserving Paradise organization called the area ownership, opportunity and ownership, O2, like a breath of oxygen. Opportunity and ownership. An incubation, innovation, and accelerator hub could be built there. And more millionaires, 1,000 millionaires a year or more, could be created from that 300 acres that we were willing to give away for 85 jobs. Madness. And I'm simply saying to us as Bahamians, let's rethink, let's reimagine the Bahamas. Let's reimagine Grand Bahama. Let's reimagine our lives. It don't have to be this way. The tools of the 21st century is available to all of us and to each of us. But for it to work within the cave, we must collectively agree that we need to bring light to it, or we will lose more people who go into the light and choose not to come back. I'm saying we have the capability within us today. A new generation has been born, not those that lived in and adopted colonialism as the method of survival. We must break away from the coloniality that we have adopted as being the only means for us to exist, while we look at and observe other nations, Dubai, Qatar, Australia, Canada, US, all these nations we run to. We can overcome that and build our own rather than leaving rather than leaving for whatever is necessary. So I'm saying to you, Bahamians, it is in us. We are capable of doing it. It starts today. We just have to decide. If I chip my tooth today, I will not try to become a dentist because there's sufficient dentists amongst us for me to get it done. And so it's not you doing it yourself. It's for you to know who can have it, who can do it, or who can help you get it done. You don't have to become a contractor to build you your bed and breakfast or to build you that home or do whatever else. You have people amongst you that's capable of doing it. You have access for the resources to pay for it. So I'm saying today is a new beginning. And so tomorrow we continue this conversation, and I will be able to tell you to look out because I'm not going away. I've just arrived. I'm just finding my footing. I'm just finding myself. I have the resources, and I want to share it with you. I want to die empty. Let me repeat. I want to die empty. Thank you so much for listening to me today, and enjoy it. This is C. Allen Johnson sitting in for Darren Cooper Live. Until tomorrow and Tuesday for him. Thank you so much for joining me.